Hello everyone, how's it going? Bit of a random video today. Not sure how long this one's going to be, but I wanted to take a look at the new Mac source port of the game Selaco. I think that's how you say the name. This is a really cool new port from Mac source ports. Now, these people, they usually do source ports of more older games, but this one is special as it's a new release. But do keep in mind, this is a standalone game using a modified version of GZ Doom. Very much worth noting that this is an early access game, both on Steam and also this Mac port. So there are a few issues. According to Mac source ports, someone called Crow Eater on GitHub figured out how to make the game run and default to the Vulkan renderer, so effectively you can now play it on Mac with the latest content. There are some issues such as a pink splash screen when you first launch the game. If you enable or disable VSync, it often causes the game to become unresponsive, but a quick restart fixes it. And sometimes when you die in the game, you don't see the proper death animation, but rather an in-game error. But otherwise, these are pretty small issues and they don't really break the game too much. You can obviously have a pretty good time here, and this is an awesome game, and I think it's really cool that Mac source ports have brought this over to Mac as a native port. So how does the game perform? Well, I tested it on 4 different Macs. The first Mac that I tested it on was my 14-inch MacBook Pro with M4 Pro. And this is at Ultra preset and 1440p. Now, it is worth noting, this is only like level 1 towards the end of the game. I didn't play too much of the game, so don't take this as concrete performance results. Anyway, on this machine, it is getting anywhere from 60 to 100 plus FPS. The issue with this game on all Macs is that there is pretty major stutter, which makes running the game at high resolutions quite difficult. I would really like this machine to be pushing 100 FPS always at 1440p, but this is not the case right now because of this stuttering. But otherwise, I do think the game, for being in early access, is performing pretty well here. One way that you could play the game for somewhat better frame pacing is 4K medium. This provides 60 FPS. I couldn't fix the micro stuttering at any resolution. This is the best I could get the game to do with 60 FPS, so you may as well just play it 4K because the game looks pretty good. But yeah, that's my M4 Pro. The game does pretty well at 1080p medium on my M4 Mac Mini. It is pretty much always getting well over 60 FPS. Well, really over 100 FPS, which is really nice in the majority of scenes. Obviously, during more challenging environments it can drop, but it's not too noticeable, and I think this is actually pretty good for an early access game on M4 Mac Mini. Even at Ultra preset, the game can go up to like 100 FPS or 80 FPS or so forth, but stuttering does unfortunately cause the frame rate to often go down to 40 or so FPS, which is quite noticeable and not what you really want for an FPS game like this. It is an old school FPS game, so it's maybe not as bad as modern FPS games, but I guess that's up to personal opinion. One thing that I found helped was putting the preset to medium and then an FPS cap of 60, and make sure VSync is on, and the display refresh rate, change that to 60 Hz in system settings. Next, we're taking a look at my M3 iMac. Now, it is worth noting and I do say this quite often, this machine has a 60 hertz display, so I have VSync enabled and a 60 FPS cap. Yeah, I first tried the game at 1080p high, and while it does hit 60 FPS, as you can see, there is a lot of stuttering at times, especially during explosions, and challenging scenes when there's lots of enemies on screen at once. On this machine right now, it was best to play at medium preset, which for the most part provided 60 FPS. There were still some tinsy wincy wincy bincy lincy FPS drops, but I don't think you're going to notice this without having access to the HUD. Okie dokie. So the last device to look at is my 13-inch MacBook Pro with M1. Now this game, which is called Selaco, isn't really that demanding, especially because it's based off GZ Doom. So it can run pretty well even on M1. This game is also optimized for Intel Macs as well. So it's no surprise it does pretty well here on my good old M1 MacBook Pro. So this is 1080p medium, and it is for the most part hitting 60 plus FPS, which I think is pretty darn cool. I think if you wanted better frame pacing, you could enable a 60 FPS cap, and maybe changing the refresh rate to 60 Hz would help as well. Obviously, the frame rate does struggle a bit more when there are explosions or fog or lots of enemies on screen, but that's okay. Yeah, I think it's really cool to see that the game is doing this well even on M1. So this is a good indication that pretty much all of you can play this game with pretty good results if you have an Apple Silicon Mac, and I imagine many Intel Macs, even some with integrated graphics, could run this game to some degree. And that's basically it, guys. Bit of a random video. I haven't looked at Mac source ports for like, I don't know, 3 to 5 years. It's been a long time, so it's really cool to be taking a look at it again. What I do hope is that the developer, Altered Orbit Studios, I think they're called, I hope they consider releasing the game on Mac, packaging it for Mac. Now, I did look up if this game had any indication of coming to Mac, and the developer did say the following on a Steam post. So it's really cool that the developer actually responded to someone asking about the Mac version. So hopefully if the developer watches this video and see that there are some people interested, who knows, maybe they will consider a Mac port. But also I imagine this video won't get that many views, so it won't be a very good indication that we want the game. But what you can do to help is just by directly asking the developer, which I'm doing right now. I really want to play your game on Mac without going through all this. But then again, it wasn't that difficult to set this up. You know, all you needed was the Windows files, and then you add them in application support, and you're good to go. But obviously, you have to buy the game from Steam and then get the files and blah blah blah. It's very easy to set up. That's basically it, guys. I don't know what else to say. Goodbye.